A wealthy man hired a nurse to save his son, trapped in a vegetative state. But when she was left alone with the boy, what she discovered was beyond horrifying. Could those closest to him be hiding a deadly secret? Imagine stepping into a world of luxury and lies, where every shadow hides a threat. Meet Emily, a highly skilled and compassionate nurse, embarking on her first day at the sprawling, opulent Wilson family estate. Her critical mission? To provide round-the-clock care for young Tommy, a heartbreakingly fragile boy who lies motionless in his bed, aware of the world around him but utterly unable to move or speak. Tubes and machines keep him alive, a silent witness to the chaos unfolding. Will Emily become his guardian angel, or will she stumble upon a nightmare that could destroy everything? Stay with me as we dive into this heart-pounding tale of suspicion, betrayal, and unbreakable resolve. As Emily carefully adjusts the collar of her crisp white uniform, a whirlwind of nerves and unyielding determination swirls in her chest. The Wilson family is not just wealthy, they're powerful, influential, and seemingly desperate for help. James, Tommy's devoted father, greets her at the grand entrance with a warm, reassuring smile that doesn't quite reach his tired eyes. He's a man of medium build, his gray hair meticulously combed back, exuding an air of quiet authority. "Welcome, Emily. I truly hope you'll feel right at home here in our family," he says in a kind, steady voice, though Emily detects a subtle undercurrent of exhaustion. "Thank you, James. I'll do absolutely everything in my power to care for Tommy and ensure his comfort," she replies calmly, her sharp eyes already scanning the lavish surroundings, the marble floors, the crystal chandeliers, the echoing hallways that seem to whisper secrets of their own. But beneath the surface elegance, something feels inexplicably off, like a faint crack in a perfect facade. James begins to guide her through the massive mansion, pointing out the elegant rooms and state-of-the-art facilities, when suddenly a woman appears, interrupting their tour with an air of urgency. "This is Helen, my wife and Tommy's stepmother," James introduces her politely. Helen is striking, with sharp, expressive features framed by wavy chestnut hair that cascades over her shoulders. But her demeanor is aloof, almost dismissive. Her cold glance barely grazes Emily, as if she's an insignificant intruder. "We need to talk right now," Helen declares sharply, her voice laced with impatience. "Tommy's condition is deteriorating rapidly. I insist we take him to the doctor my family trusts. They've handled cases like this before." James shakes his head firmly, his expression hardening. "No, Helen. The specialist we consulted said the current prescribed treatment is the absolute best available in the country. We can't keep switching plans on a whim." Why does this exchange feel less like concern and more like a fierce battle for control? Emily wonders silently, her trained instincts picking up on the simmering tension. Emily can't help but sense that she's walked straight into the middle of a deep-seated family conflict, one that pulses with unspoken resentments. "I'm committed to giving my son the very best treatment possible," James continues, his tone unwavering, though a flicker of frustration crosses his face. "You know just how serious his condition is. We can't afford mistakes." But Helen, Tommy's stepmother, is far from satisfied, her eyes narrowing in clear dissatisfaction. "Why do you never listen to a single word I say? You're always siding with Tommy's biological mother, never with me," she complains bitterly, her voice rising before she abruptly turns on her heel and storms off down the hallway, leaving a heavy silence in her wake. Emily glances at James, deciding to intervene gently to diffuse the awkward moment. "The medications you showed me earlier are indeed highly effective and carry no known harmful side effects," she says with a reassuring smile, drawing on her extensive medical knowledge. "I assure you, I'll do everything humanly possible to provide the highest level of care for your son and monitor his progress closely." James manages a grateful smile, his shoulders relaxing slightly. "Excellent, Emily. We're truly counting on your expertise. My wife and I have been so utterly exhausted from all this. It's been months of sleepless nights and constant worry," he admits wearily, before leading her down the long, dimly lit corridor to Tommy's private room, where the beeping of machines echoes like a somber heartbeat. Once James leaves her alone to begin her duties, Emily dives into her work with focused precision. She meticulously checks each of Tommy's medications, ensuring dosages are correct, and gently adjusts his position in the bed to prevent any discomfort. Surrounded by a tangled web of tubes and monitors, Tommy appears so heartbreakingly small and vulnerable, his young face pale and expressionless. "Oh, poor little boy, how desperately I want to help you heal and bring some light back into your eyes," she thinks to herself, a wave of empathy washing over her, causing her own eyes to well up with unshed tears. But in that quiet, intense moment of connection, something utterly unexpected happens, something that makes Emily freeze in place, her breath catching in her throat. Tommy's finger twitches ever so slightly, a deliberate movement that defies everything she knows about his vegetative state. His wide, frightened eyes lock onto hers with an intensity that sends chills down her spine. This shouldn't be possible. He's not supposed to be capable of any voluntary gestures, not even involuntarily, she realizes, her pulse quickening to a frantic rhythm. It feels as though the boy is desperately trying to communicate, to bridge the silent void that traps him. Leaning in closer, Emily whispers softly, her voice barely audible over the hum of the machines. "Tommy, if you can understand me at all, please give me another sign. Anything to confirm this isn't my imagination." The room falls into a tense silence, thick with anticipation, and then, like the gentle rustle of a falling leaf in a still forest, his fingers move again, deliberate and pleading. He's awake inside. He's fully aware, and he's reaching out to me. Overwhelmed with shock and hope, Emily blurts out, "I'll call your family right away. They need to see this miracle." But as soon as the words leave her lips, Tommy's eyes widen in pure, unadulterated terror, and the vital sign monitors erupt into a cacophony of alarming beeps, signaling a sudden spike in his heart rate and distress. Emily's stomach plummets like a stone. She stops dead in her tracks, realizing her mistake. "If you don't want me to tell them, if you're afraid for some reason, move your finger twice. Please, I need to understand what's happening here," she urges gently, praying she's wrong about the dark implications. To her deep sorrow and growing alarm, Tommy complies exactly, his tiny movement confirming the unthinkable. He fears his own family, the very people who should protect him. Emily's mind races with horrifying possibilities as she approaches the door, peeking into the empty hallway to ensure no one is eavesdropping, before returning to his bedside. "Don't worry, Tommy. I'm right here with you, and I promise I'll help you through this, no matter what it takes," she whispers fervently, as if sealing a sacred vow in the heavy, tension-filled atmosphere of the room. Driven by a fierce determination to uncover the truth behind Tommy's fear, Emily begins to monitor every single aspect of his care with hawk-like vigilance over the following days. She notes every subtle change, every fluctuation in his vital signs, waiting for any clue that might reveal whether his condition is improving or, God forbid, worsening due to foul play. One fateful afternoon, as she sorts through the array of medications on his bedside table, her attention is drawn to a small, unmarked bottle partially concealed behind the clearly labeled ones. Frowning deeply, she picks it up, turning it over in her hands. What on earth is this? It doesn't match any of the prescribed drugs. Could this be the key to everything? She mutters under her breath, a cold wave of suspicion building within her like a gathering storm. Just then, Helen passes by the half-open door and catches sight of Emily examining the bottle. The door swings open with a forceful push, and Helen strides in, her face a mask of feigned concern masking something darker. "Emily, what exactly is that in your hand?" she demands, her eyes fixed intently on the mysterious vial. Instinctively, Emily slips the bottle behind her back, her heart pounding. "Oh, it's nothing important. Just checking the supplies," she replies, forcing her voice to remain steady and composed. "Put it back where it belongs immediately," Helen snaps curtly, her tone leaving no room for argument, before she turns and exits as quickly as she arrived. Why is she reacting so strongly? Does she know something about this bottle that I don't? Emily ponders, her suspicions now fully ignited. That very night, under the cover of darkness while Tommy sleeps peacefully for the first time in hours, Emily decides to conduct a more thorough investigation of his room. She quietly rifles through drawers, cabinets, and hidden corners, her flashlight beam cutting through the shadows like a knife. In a small, forgotten bag tucked away at the bottom of a cluttered closet, she discovers several empty packaging wrappers identical to the unmarked medication she'd found earlier. Her heart hammers against her ribs as the pieces begin to fall into place. This absolutely cannot be a mere coincidence. Someone is deliberately introducing unknown substances into his treatment, she whispers to herself, a chill running down her spine. But before she can process this discovery, faint footsteps echo in the corridor outside, forcing her to hastily conceal the bag and compose herself just in time. Emily's sense of responsibility for Tommy's fragile life intensifies with each passing hour, weighing on her like an invisible burden. Later that evening, the door creaks open again, and a woman Emily has never seen before enters the room unannounced. Her features are sharp and angular, her gaze piercing and intense, radiating a mix of raw strength and barely concealed despair. She barely spares Emily a glance, her focus locked solely on Tommy. How is he holding up? Have there been any noticeable changes since yesterday? She asks, her voice trembling with a blend of genuine anxiety and flickering hope. By the way, I'm Catherine, Tommy's biological mother, she adds belatedly, her eyes never leaving her son's face as she reaches out to tenderly brush his hand. Her worry seems real, but why does it feel so performative, like a rehearsed act? Emily thinks, still reeling from the unexpected intrusion. Emily, caught off guard by Catherine's sudden appearance, quickly regains her composure. No significant changes so far, but I'm monitoring him closely, she responds, observing how Catherine's touch lingers on Tommy's hand with what appears to be affection. Yet, Tommy shows no further signs of communication, leaving Emily to question her own perceptions. Was that initial movement just a fluke? Am I letting my imagination run wild, suspecting innocent people of terrible things? She doubts herself momentarily. Before the conversation can progress, Helen bursts into the room once more, her eyes immediately narrowing in hostility at the sight of Catherine by Tommy's bedside. You're here again without any warning, Catherine? This isn't good for Tommy at all. I don't think you truly care about your own son's well-being, Helen accuses sharply, her voice dripping with barely concealed venom and rivalry. Catherine whips around, her face flushing with anger as she meets Helen's gaze head-on. I'm his mother, for heaven's sake. Of course I care more than anyone. And I certainly don't need an invitation or your permission to visit my own child. She retorts hotly, her tone laced with deep-seated irritation and resentment. And why is it that every single time I come here, his condition seems to take a turn for the worse? It's almost as if my presence highlights something suspicious. Helen visibly flinches at the pointed words, her composure cracking. I'm doing everything in my power to help him. James trusts me completely with the care of our boy. She emphasizes possessively, the word "our" hanging in the air like a challenge designed to provoke Catherine further. Perhaps it's your erratic visits that are stressing him out and making things worse, Helen adds snidely, escalating the confrontation. Sensing the situation spiraling into a full-blown argument that could distress Tommy, Emily decides to intervene decisively. Ladies, perhaps we should all step outside and discuss this calmly in another room. Tommy needs absolute peace and quiet to have any chance of recovery, she suggests firmly, her voice cutting through the tension like a steady anchor. Catherine and Helen exchange venomous glares, the air thick with unspoken accusations, before Catherine turns sharply to Emily with a scornful look. You're the new nurse, aren't you? Fresh on the job and already thinking you know what's best for our family? You have no idea what we've been through, she sneers, dismissing Emily's input. Before Emily can defend herself, Helen interjects coldly. She's only been here a short while. There's no need to involve her in our private matters. Catherine sighs dramatically, shaking her head in frustration. You know what I think? No nurse, no matter how qualified, can fix the real problems here, she says bitterly, her words heavy with implication. Finally, the two women exit the room, their hushed bickering continuing down the hall like a fading storm. Emily turns back to Tommy, who remains eerily still and unresponsive amid the emotional turmoil that just unfolded around him. Her sense of duty and protectiveness surges stronger than ever, a burning fire within her chest. Recalling the unmarked bottles she discovered, Emily knows deep in her gut that she must dig deeper, no matter the risk. That night, As the house settles into an uneasy silence, she resumes her secretive search, her mind racing with possibilities. In a forgotten drawer in the adjoining bathroom, hidden beneath a stack of towels, she uncovers yet another bottle. This one containing a thick, viscous liquid with a disturbing dark green hue. This medication looks downright suspicious. Nothing like the standard treatments, she murmurs to herself, a wave of certainty washing over her that she's onto something crucially important. Now armed with tangible evidence that something is gravely amiss, Emily understands that her next actions could be pivotal, potentially life-altering. As her shift draws to a close, she refuses to leave Tommy's side, opting instead to rest on a nearby cot, her watchful eyes never fully closing. Soon enough, James enters quietly, his face lined with worry under the soft glow of the nightlight, coming to check on his son during the late hours. "How is he faring tonight? Any subtle changes I should know about?" he asks softly, leaning over to gently touch Tommy's forehead, as if reassuring himself that his boy is still breathing. Emily can see the genuine, paternal love shining in his eyes, but she holds back from sharing her discoveries until she's absolutely certain. "No changes yet, James, but I'm still holding on to hope that we'll see some improvement soon," she replies, swiftly closing her notebook where she's been jotting down meticulous observations. James offers a sad, appreciative smile, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Emily. Your unwavering dedication means the world to us in this trying time. We couldn't have asked for better." He lingers for a moment longer before exiting, leaving Emily alone with her swirling thoughts and mounting doubts. She stares at her notebook, then at Tommy's peaceful form, convinced that the truth is buried somewhere amid the tangled web of dosages, family dynamics, and hidden secrets. She's determined to unearth it, come what may. The following morning dawns with Emily starting her shift under a cloud of heightened alertness, her eyes constantly darting to Tommy's monitors, which show his condition remaining stubbornly unchanged. This eerie stability now strikes her as artificially induced, a red flag waving in her mind. Mere minutes after she begins her routine checks, Helen enters carrying a tray with a brand new bottle of medication, her expression oddly detached. "Good morning, Emily. Here's the latest prescription from the doctor. We're optimistic this one will make a real difference," she says with a hint of indifference that doesn't match her words. Emily watches intently as Helen prepares the dosage, her suspicions reaching a boiling point. This feels all wrong. Why the sudden new drug without warning? "Would you mind showing me the official prescription so I can properly update Tommy's medical records?" Emily asks, maintaining a professional tone despite her inner turmoil. Helen pauses for a split second, her face flashing with uncertainty. "Of course, I'll go fetch it right now," she replies, hurrying out of the room. When she returns empty-handed, Emily's alarm bells ring louder than ever. "I'm sorry, I couldn't locate the prescription just yet, but I assure you it's legitimate. The doctor prescribed it personally," Helen says, her voice tinged with noticeable nervousness. Emily senses the deception immediately. "It would be best if we verify the prescription directly with the doctor, just as a precaution for Tommy's safety," she insists firmly. Helen's cheeks flush with anger, her composure cracking. "Are you accusing me of doing something wrong? This is from a trusted doctor. All I want is for my boy to get better. If you keep doubting my intentions, you won't be able to continue working here. I care about his recovery more than anyone," she retorts irritably, her hands trembling slightly as she administers the injection. Emily observes closely, and within minutes, Tommy begins showing clear signs of discomfort. His face contorts faintly, his breathing becomes more labored and irregular. The monitors display subtle, yet deeply troubling shifts in his vital signs. "I cannot allow her to give him any more unverified medications. This could be endangering his life," Emily thinks urgently, her worry escalating to full-blown alarm. She resolves to implement stricter controls and starts documenting every minute detail in her notebook, vowing not to overlook even the smallest anomaly. As the tense minutes tick by, Emily feels an overwhelming urge to take decisive action. "I want to speak directly with the doctor myself. I need to arrange a meeting as soon as possible," she declares aloud, echoing Helen's earlier mentions of medical consultations. It's a bold, risky move, but absolutely necessary to safeguard Tommy's well-being. Helen, still lingering in the room, attempts to placate her. Emily, you're new to this household. These medical decisions are incredibly complex, and they're always made with Tommy's best interests at heart. Trust the process, she says persuasively, but Emily remains unmoved. Tommy is my utmost priority. I was hired to care for him, and if anything seems amiss, I'll do whatever it takes to rectify it. I insist on speaking with the doctor, she states resolutely, her voice steady despite the inner storm. Helen exits the room, muttering that she'll call the doctor, leaving Emily to pore over her detailed notes once more. The atmosphere in Tommy's room grows thicker with anticipation and anxiety as Emily waits for Helen's return, her eyes glued to the monitors for any further changes. She prays silently that her records will never need to be used as evidence, but deep down, she knows they're vitally important. When Helen finally reappears, her face is taut with strain, her voice carefully controlled. Here's the doctor's name and contact number, Dr. Thompson. Go ahead and verify for yourself that everything with the treatment is in perfect order, she announces, handing over a small scrap of paper with a forced smile. Emily accepts the note with hands that tremble slightly from adrenaline, nods in thanks, and immediately dials the number. Her voice is firm yet polite as she requests Dr. Thompson to come examine Tommy without delay. While awaiting his arrival, Emily continues her vigilant watch over Tommy, every second stretching like an eternity. When Dr. Thompson finally enters, Emily feels a brief surge of relief at the sight of a professional who might provide answers. He's a middle-aged man in a spotless white coat, projecting an aura of calm expertise that initially soothes her frayed nerves. After quick introductions, he conducts a thorough examination of Tommy, with Emily observing every move like a hawk. Upon completing the checkup, Emily presents the problematic medication that Helen had administered, the one that triggered the alarming monitor readings. Dr. Thompson turns to her with a serene, unflappable expression. I can assure you without a doubt that this prescribed medication is entirely appropriate for Tommy's current condition. There are no mistakes in his treatment plan whatsoever. These brief fluctuations in the vital signs are completely normal reactions following the administration of such potent drugs, he states calmly, snapping his medical case shut with finality before casting a quick, almost imperceptible glance at Helen. Emily experiences a turbulent mix of relief that no immediate errors are apparent and profound disappointment, as her gut instincts scream that something is fundamentally wrong. Thank you, doctor. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to come and confirm this, she says, struggling to maintain her composure. As Dr. Thompson and Helen depart the room together, Emily sinks into a chair by Tommy's bed, the space now enveloped in a quiet, dim twilight, disturbed only by the rhythmic hum of the medical equipment. Her thoughts whirl chaotically around the accumulating suspicious elements, the unlabeled bottles, Tommy's unexplained symptoms, Helen's evasive behavior, and now the doctor's too smooth assurances. She knows she must proceed with extreme caution, but her intuition insists that a sinister force is at work here, lurking just beneath the surface. Before she can sink deeper into her contemplative spiral, Tommy stirs once more, his slight movement jolting Emily back to the present. She leans forward, her breath held in anticipation. Tommy's fingers twitch again, and his eyes flutter open with a startling clarity that she hadn't anticipated. Tommy, can you hear me? Are you trying to tell me something important? She whispers urgently, afraid to raise her voice and alert anyone outside. To her astonishment, the boy nods slowly, his lips quivering as if mustering all his strength to form words. Tommy, please, if you want to say something, I'm listening. I'm here to help you, no matter what, she encourages, leaning even closer, her heart pounding wildly. He strains visibly, and in a weak, barely audible whisper that cuts through the silence like a knife, he utters, "Police." Emily freezes, her blood turning to ice. She can hardly believe her ears. Tommy, presumed to be in a deep vegetative state, is explicitly asking her to summon the police. His labored breathing and fear-filled eyes confirm it's no delusion. He knows something terrifying, something he's desperate to escape. This revelation shatters any remaining doubts. This isn't coincidence. It's a cry for help. Okay, Tommy, I'll call the police right away, "I promise," she whispers back, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her. But at that precise moment, footsteps approach in the hallway, forcing Emily to pocket her phone swiftly and feign normalcy. Helen enters carrying a steaming cup of tea, her expression deceptively casual. "How's Tommy doing now? Everything stable?" she inquires, seemingly oblivious to the charged atmosphere. Emily steals a glance at Tommy, who has already closed his eyes, reverting to his motionless state. "No changes at all," Emily replies shortly, masking her turbulent emotions with professional detachment. Helen settles into a chair by the door, sipping her tea leisurely while keeping a watchful eye on Tommy. Emily realizes she must bide her time, keeping Helen at arm's length until she can act without interference. Calling the police could be the turning point, but she must ensure it's done secretly, lest the situation escalate dangerously. That night, as the house finally descends into complete silence, Emily seizes her chance. Her hands shake uncontrollably, but she knows hesitation could cost Tommy his life. She's his last line of defense. Taking a deep, steadying breath, she dials the emergency number. When the operator answers, Emily speaks quickly but clearly. "Hello, this is urgent. I'm a nurse working in the Wilson family home. The child under my care, who's supposed to be in a vegetative state, has shown signs of consciousness and specifically asked me to call the police. I strongly suspect foul play. Please send officers as soon as possible." The operator poses several clarifying questions, which Emily answers with utmost caution to avoid alerting anyone. They assure her a patrol will arrive shortly. Emily conceals her phone and returns to Tommy's bedside, where he lies still once more, though his earlier plea and visible fear continue to haunt her, fueling her resolve. Soon, a soft knock echoes at the front door. Emily hurries to answer, finding two uniformed police officers standing there. "Hello. Please come in quietly. We mustn't disturb the family yet," she whispers, guiding them to Tommy's room while explaining the entire harrowing sequence. Tommy's secret signals, the suspicious unmarked medications, his palpable fear of his family. One officer approaches Tommy gently, examining him closely, while the other begins questioning Emily in detail. "When did you first notice Tommy attempting to communicate with you?" the officer asks, notebook in hand. "It started a few days ago with subtle movements, but today he explicitly whispered for the police," Emily explains, her voice low but firm. "What precisely did he say, and in what context?" the officer probes further. "He said police. That's all he could manage before weakening. He's incredibly frail, but his eyes were full of terror," she replies, casting a worried look at Tommy, who appears deeply asleep again. The officers exchange meaningful glances and commence a thorough inspection of the room, their trained eyes scanning for evidence. One spots the array of suspicious medications on the table, and Emily elaborates on her concerns. These aren't listed in his official treatment plan, and after administration, his condition always worsens noticeably. "We'll have these analyzed immediately," an officer assures her, carefully bagging the bottles for forensic testing. At that critical juncture, James enters the room, his face draining of color at the sight of police in his home. "What in God's name is going on here? Why are officers in my son's room?" he demands, his voice trembling with shock and confusion. Emily gathers her courage, knowing this moment could shatter the family. "James, Tommy asked me to call the police. I believe something is terribly wrong. I found suspicious medications that may be deliberately harming him." James's expression crumbles, his world tilting. "That's utterly impossible. I trusted the doctor who prescribed everything," he stammers, but a seed of doubt takes root in his wavering tone. As James struggles to process and explain, the officers persist with their investigation, methodically questioning him and cataloging details. The room's tension thickens like fog, every word hanging heavy. Emily senses the volatile situation could explode at any second, but her sole focus remains Tommy's safety. Suddenly, rapid footsteps resound from the hallway, and Helen bursts in, her face twisted in fury and disbelief. "What are you doing in our home? Emily, why on earth have you brought the police here without consulting us?" she shouts, her eyes darting wildly. Emily stands tall, unflinching. "Tommy pleaded for help. Something sinister is at play, and we must uncover it to protect him." Helen's denial comes fast and fierce. This is all a ridiculous misunderstanding. Tommy can't possibly speak. He's incapable. But her voice cracks, betraying her mounting panic. An officer steps forward, his tone authoritative. "Ma'am, we need to ask you some questions to clarify the full picture." Helen backs away slowly, her face flushing, her breathing ragged and uneven. Emily watches as fear fully engulfs the stepmother, confirming her suspicions that Helen is far from innocent. "Fine. Ask your questions then." Helen snaps defiantly, attempting to regain control, though her trembling hands tell a different story. The officers observe her reactions keenly as one begins. How long has Tommy been in this vegetative condition, and who exactly makes the decisions regarding his medical treatment and medications? Helen nervously tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, sighing dramatically. "He's been like this for about a year now, ever since that tragic accident. My husband, James, along with our trusted doctors, handles all the decisions. I merely try to help where I can, supporting the family through this ordeal." Her words sound rehearsed, but Emily detects a thread of insincerity weaving through them. "You claim you only assist, but Emily has mentioned discovering strange, unlisted preparations that weren't prescribed. What can you tell us about those?" An officer inquires, his gaze unwavering. Helen frowns, her mind visibly racing for an explanation. I simply follow the doctor's recommendations to the letter. We all want nothing more than for Tommy to recover fully, don't we? If there's been a mix-up with the labels or something, it's an honest mistake. I'm not a medical expert, after all. There's no malicious intent here, I swear." She responds hastily, her voice pitching higher with each word. Emily observes the interrogation unfold, convinced Helen's nervousness and deflections are damning. She's too eager to shift blame, too quick to dismiss concerns. The officers continue probing as James stands aside, looking increasingly lost and betrayed. In a dramatic turn, Tommy stirs once more on his bed. Emily rushes to his side, leaning in close. "Tommy, can you try to speak again? We're all here to help," she whispers encouragingly, hoping for another breakthrough. This time, his eyes open wider, and in a faint but unmistakable whisper, he says, "Dad, stepmom, don't trust." The words hang in the air like a thunderclap, freezing everyone in stunned silence. Emily feels a cold shiver race down her spine. The truth is unraveling before their eyes. Helen whirls toward Tommy, her face contorted in horror and denial. "What are you saying, Tommy? That's not true at all. You must be confused," she cries out desperately, lunging forward, but an officer intercepts her swiftly. "Please, ma'am, calm down immediately," he commands sternly, regarding her with heightened suspicion. "We'll need to conduct a full investigation, and every action you take will be documented and scrutinized." James, pale as a ghost, whispers hoarsely, "What do you mean by that, son? Tell me more." But Tommy, exhausted from the effort, closes his eyes again, his body relaxing into stillness. Those few words, however, are enough to shatter the fragile trust within the family forever. The officers shift into high gear, questioning James intensely, and it soon emerges that he was unaware of several medications Helen had been administering behind his back. His genuine shock and confusion are palpable, deepening the divide. Helen, sensing the noose tightening, grows increasingly frantic. "This is all a terrible mistake. I only ever wanted to help him get better. Nothing more," she exclaims, but her pleas fall on deaf ears, sounding hollow and unconvincing. An officer raises a hand to silence her outbursts. "We'll analyze all the seized medications thoroughly. In the meantime, everyone here remains under close observation. No one leaves until we say so." The room's tension reaches a fever pitch, electrified with uncertainty. Emily knows the truth is on the verge of full exposure, yet lingering questions swirl like smoke. Her primary goal has always been Tommy's protection, and with the police now fully engaged, a glimmer of hope emerges that he'll finally be safe from harm. Helen, watching her carefully laid plans crumble before her eyes, becomes even more erratic and defensive. She edges toward the door, casting defiant glares at everyone. "You're all committing a grave error here. I love Tommy like my own and would never, ever do anything to hurt him. How dare you accuse me?" she declares, her voice strained and breaking. Emily no longer harbors any doubts. Tommy's warning about not trusting Helen was spot on. The officers moved decisively. One blocks Helen's exit path, while the other resumes grilling James for more details. Emily remains vigilant by Tommy's side, sensing that the danger hasn't been entirely neutralized yet. "I won't permit you to leave this premises until we've clarified every last circumstance," the officer states firmly, standing resolutely in Helen's way. Realizing her scheme is being dismantled piece by piece, Helen lets out a deep, defeated sigh and collapses into a chair, clutching her head in her hands. Her nervousness escalates to visible panic as the questions continue unrelentingly, her responses becoming fragmented and evasive. "You have to understand, I was only trying to help in any way I could. Everything I did was for Tommy's sake, for the family's sake," she insists, turning pleadingly to James. But his eyes, once filled with affection, now brim with doubt and betrayal. "I placed my full trust in you, Helen. Why keep these medications secret from me? Why go behind my back like this?" he asks, his voice heavy with profound disappointment and heartache. Helen bites her lip hard, unable to muster a coherent response, her facade finally cracking under the pressure. At that pivotal moment, one officer returns from a quick preliminary check, holding a report on the seized drugs. "We've conducted an initial analysis on the medications you administered to the boy. It appears these are potent substances not at all intended for treating his specific symptoms. They could be causing severe harm," he announces, directing a stern, accusatory look at Helen. She pales dramatically, her last defenses crumbling as she makes a feeble attempt to justify herself. I didn't know that. The pharmacy must have given me the wrong thing. I genuinely thought it would help him improve," she stammers, her voice quivering with fear and desperation. The officer remains unmoved, his tone unyielding. "You should have consulted a qualified doctor before administering anything. Instead, you've placed this child at even greater risk. We're left with no choice but to detain you for further investigation and potential charges." With those damning words, the officers advance toward Helen, who offers no resistance but wears an expression of utter defeat and resignation. She turns one last time to James, whispering, "I never meant for any of this to happen. I was just trying to help, to make things better." But before she can say more, she's escorted out of the room and the house. James stands rooted to the spot, as if paralyzed by the whirlwind of revelations, staring blankly at the door through which his wife has been taken. Tears well up in his eyes as he shifts his gaze to Tommy, the weight of betrayal crushing him. Emily approaches softly, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "We'll get through this and uncover every truth. The most important thing is that Tommy is alive, and now we can focus on helping him truly recover," she says quietly, offering what solace she can. James nods wordlessly, too overwhelmed to speak, his world forever altered. In the ensuing hours, the Wilson home transforms into a hive of investigative activity. Police officers methodically collect evidence, interview witnesses, and arrange for comprehensive lab tests on all the medications found. Tommy is carefully transported to a nearby hospital for advanced examinations and stabilized care, with Emily accompanying him every step of the way. Despite the emotional heaviness of the ordeal, Emily feels a profound sense of relief washing over her. Tommy is safe, and his brave warning has ignited the process of exposing a horrific truth. As Helen is removed from the scene, the case spirals into even more shocking depths. Emily had suspected complexity, but the conspiracy's true extent surpasses her wildest fears. The police delve deeper, unearthing layer after layer of deceit. The very next day, James is summoned to the station for in-depth questioning. Upon his return, his face is ashen, his hands unsteady as he slumps into a chair. "Emily, it's far worse than we could have imagined," he confides, his voice breaking. The investigators discovered that Helen, Catherine, and even Dr. Thompson were all entangled in a calculated scheme. They were intentionally sabotaging Tommy's recovery to trigger an enormous insurance payout after a year of suffering. Emily freezes, a wave of icy horror flooding her veins. The puzzle pieces snap into place with chilling clarity. Helen, Catherine, and the so-called Dr. Thompson had been gambling with an innocent child's life for cold, hard profit. Further police work reveals forged prescriptions, fabricated medical reports, and clandestine financial deals orchestrated by Helen and Catherine. Documents hidden in the house paint a picture of a meticulously planned conspiracy that had been brewing for months. Helen and Catherine had been administering inappropriate drugs to deliberately prolong Tommy's suffering, damaging his young body in the process. At the ensuing trial, which spans several grueling months, the revelations stun the courtroom. James, utterly devastated, takes the stand as a key witness, his testimony raw with pain. "I never dreamed the people I loved and trusted most could stoop to this level. They exploited my son for financial gain while he endured unimaginable suffering, and I failed to protect him." He chokes out, tears streaming freely. Emily also testifies powerfully, recounting Tommy's secret communications and her discoveries of the suspicious drugs, her evidence proving instrumental in sealing the case. The verdict brings long-awaited justice. Helen and Catherine are convicted of intentional negligence causing grave harm to a child, coupled with fraud for the insurance scheme. Dr. Thompson, exposed as a complete imposter without any medical credentials, is sentenced for fraud and illegal practice. Helen receives 15 years behind bars for her central role in the harm inflicted on Tommy. Catherine, shockingly complicit despite being his birth mother, gets 10 years for allowing her son to suffer for monetary benefit. Thompson is handed 12 years for his deceptive involvement. Post-trial, Tommy's health begins a remarkable upward trajectory in the hospital, with appropriate treatments finally in place. Thanks to Emily's timely intervention and unwavering courage, he avoids the worst fate. James, liberated from the toxic influences of Helen and Catherine, dedicates himself wholly to his son's recovery, overseeing every detail with newfound vigilance. Emily stays involved, providing expert care and emotional support as Tommy shows steady progress. Though the road to full healing is long and arduous, Tommy now has a genuine shot at a normal life, surrounded by authentic love and protection. The saga concludes with the trial's closure, but for Tommy and James, it's the dawn of a hopeful new chapter. They both recognize that brighter days lie ahead, all thanks to Emily's bravery and the unyielding arm of the law. Tommy is forever shielded from those who sought to trade his life for riches. Emily continues her visits to the hospital, while James spends endless hours by his son's side, atoning for not spotting the danger sooner. One particularly uplifting day, Emily enters Tommy's bright hospital room to find him sitting up independently, a soft, genuine smile lighting his face. His eyes, once clouded with fear and pain, now sparkle with clarity and gratitude. "Thank you for everything," he whispers weakly but sincerely, his voice a testament to his emerging strength. Emily's heart overflows with joy and fulfillment. She has truly saved this boy's life. Thank you so much for watching this riveting story all the way through. What part shocked you the most? The family betrayal or the insurance plot? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button for unbelievable but true to catch more jaw-dropping tales, and share this video with your friends and family. Your engagement keeps us motivated to bring you fresh, unbelievable stories every single day. Don't forget to check out our complete catalog of stories linked in the description. Stay tuned for the next mind-blowing adventure hitting your screen soon. We're incredibly grateful you're part of our community. See you in the next one.